Welcome back, guys. So today let's talk about 1974's Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark, who also directed another Christmas movie that you might have heard of called A Christmas Story. Funny fact is that he literally directed A Christmas Story as well. So he made a dark horror film that's during Christmas, and then he made one of the most lighthearted and one of the most famous in pop culture Christmas movies ever, A Christmas Story. So I just thought that was a funny tidbit that he directed both of those Christmas movies, but Black Christmas, out of the two, I prefer, though. I think Black Christmas I like a lot more. A Christmas Story I didn't really grow up with. I've seen it, but I just never have loved it. This movie, Black Christmas, right here, I want to say this is one of those movies where whenever I'm going to review this, I'm going to say, like, kind of the movie in order and talk about what I love about it. Because I love everything about this movie. I think this is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, and I think that rewatching it again, it's still incredibly effective. And this is one of the first, not the first, one of the first horror movies, slasher movies that has a POV of the killer. Even though Peeping Tom did that in 1960, this one was one of the more the one that people remember more than Peeping Tom. I haven't even seen Peeping Tom, and I want to see it, but this is one of the first slasher movies that actually inspired Halloween, and that's really funny that this inspired that, because this is truly a scary movie, just like Halloween. I think this is scarier than Halloween, honestly. And I love Halloween. It's my favorite horror movie, but, like, Black Christmas, something about this movie is just so unnerving. This is an incredibly well-directed film. All the performances are incredible, and this is suspenseful as hell. It's scary as hell, and I think that it just works on every level. I love how the opening is really scary. It starts out with just these sorority girls going into their house, and the killer almost comes into the house, like his point of view. And then, like, they close the door on him, and then he climbs up. I forgot what that's called. It's kind of like on the side of the building where, like, you can climb on it. I forgot what the term is for that, but he climbs on the side of the building up into the attic, and calls them from inside the house. Even though that's told later, you don't know that he's called from the house at this moment. But at the end of the movie, you know he's inside the house, and calling them from inside the house. But he calls them at the beginning of the movie and says these horrifying things, like he's just literally moaning on the phone, and just says these horrible things to all these sorority girls. And him being vulgar in that voice is incredibly effective. Like, it really works in a way where it's just truly scary. And after the phone call, this girl goes upstairs, Claire, to go pack, and the killer's in her room, and behind all these jackets, and there's a see-through, like, raincoat that it's, like, killer is behind. And you see the point of view of the killer watching her, and it is disturbing. And, like, she gets closer, and the killer grabs her, and you don't even see the killer. You never see the killer in full view, and I love that about this movie. But the killer gets her with the rain jacket and just, like, starts suffocating her with it. And then it cuts to a couple scenes downstairs, and then it cuts to upstairs. She's just dead with that on her, with the bag on her, or the jacket on her, and he rocks her in a rocking chair up in the attic. It is creepy, and it's the poster for the movie, but it is scary. Incredibly effective. And there's a lot of shots throughout the movie where you just see her dead, just sitting in the rocking chair up in the attic. Like, it is really effective and really scary. I really think that is horrifying. And then, like, the character Mrs. Mack goes upstairs, like, when she's alone, and she finds the girl, Claire, up there, and what the killer does is he gets this hook, and I don't know how this works. I guess there's a hook in there, like, to pull stuff up into the attic, but he gets a literal hook that's up there, rams it right into her face, and pulls her up there with a crane, and, like, kills her up there. And it's scary too, because she literally doesn't have a chance to get away. She looks up, in the attic. She sees the body, and then the crane grabs her, pulls her up, and just drags her into the attic, and it is really effective. Again, it's so scary because nobody knows this killer's in the house, and he hasn't done anything outside of the attic besides call them. And that to me makes it truly scary that nobody knows that he's even in the house. And after this, for a while, it's just about the character Jess, who Olivia Hussey plays, who is really good in this movie, like she is in everything else I've seen her in. She and her boyfriend Peter, who's kind of unhinged. Like they're having these talks about her having an abortion because she doesn't want a baby yet, and she doesn't think they're ready. And Peter becomes more and more unhinged and more kind of pushy and mean to her, and it's kind of making you think like, oh, the Peter might be the killer, but you never get the full idea if he is until the end, and it's just kind of a fake out, I guess you could say. But I like those scenes, and I like that it gives a little more plot to that. And I like how all these characters, I think, are actually really interesting and really fun and funny. Barb, who Margot Kidder plays, the Margot Kidder, is really, really awesome. She's genuinely hilarious in this movie. Like, she had such a great personality, and it's so sad that she died last year, but she had such a great personality in movies, and I love her in all the movies I've seen her in, and she's great in this. She's a great, sarcastic person to everybody. Like, she can be mean, but like she's funny though. Like, she still has great charisma and great personality to her. I really do like Barb a lot in this movie, Margot Kidder, and all the other girls are good too. But like the ones that stay in the house and get killed get more importance, and Barb is very important because Barb gets killed next, and it's really scary because, again, we don't see the killer ever in full view, but like this is the closest we get to where Barb has all these kind of glass like creations. Like, I don't know what they exactly are, but like there's one with a spike on it, and she's asleep. The killer's right here, and the point of view is like this, literally on the movie, but it's all dark except for like his eye. You can only see like his eye. And he's just like this, about to get her, waiting for her to wake up. And then she wakes up, and he just goes down on her and stabs her like 100 times. And like, well, not 100 times, but you know what I mean. But he does it a lot, and like it's through the glass things that she has. So like you see him doing it through the glass, and that's a really cool image and really creepy and really scary. So Barb gets killed, and I thought, wow, she could have been the main character, because her and Jess have such, like, they felt like they were in the movie enough to imply that either of them could have been the main character or either of them could have survived. But nope, Barb is gone, and that to me was a really scary moment whenever she's gone. And then Phil gets killed too, the girl Phil, but like you don't see it. And Jess is the only one left inside, and John Saxton is trying to figure out who the person is calling, and like they're trying to figure out where Claire is. So he has it to where Jess, with thinking that Barb and Phil are upstairs sleeping, Jess is downstairs waiting for the phone to ring so then they can try to get a clear trace on the killer, on where he could be. Or this creepy guy. They don't even know he's the killer, but this creepy guy. And she eventually gets, after a while, after a couple failed tries on the phone, she eventually gets it to where they figure out where this person is located. And I love that moment where like they say, like the other guy, Nash, says to her on the phone, like I want you to listen to me, Jess, and don't even talk back. Just leave. Just please leave. Don't say anything. And then she's like, okay, but I gotta go tell Phil and Barb, and he's like, no, just get out of the house. And then she's like, what? And then he responds, like he gets so frustrated where he says, the guy's in the house, the guy's in the house. And then she has her look on her face, and it cuts to just up the stairs, where she's just looking up the stairs with the phone in her hands, and she puts down the phone while they're telling her, get out, come on, get out of here. And then she goes up the stairs, which you could say is a really stupid decision. But to be fair, nobody knows that anybody's been killed until Jess realizes it, and she goes and finds Barb and Phil dead. And the killer finds her and chases her down, and like they have a scuffle, and like she runs downstairs, and then her boyfriend Peter comes up, and he's just there, and it's making you think more like, oh, Peter is the killer. Um, and then Peter comes down inside, and like you don't see this, but then the police show up, and Jess has killed Peter because she thinks that he's the killer because of all the implications throughout the movie. And that's a great fake out because after that, we get the ending of the movie where Jess, like they say, we'll be outside, like we'll be watching outside as they think they killed the killer. Everybody leaves. Jess is asleep, and then it does this scary ass like with no sound, just no noise, just camera all around the house going up to the attic that's slowly opening again, and then you hear the killer just say he's talking about his sister Agnes again. And then it cuts outside to where the guy's just watching the outside of the house, and the phone starts ringing again. And then the credits start rolling. And you never realize the full fate on what happened to Jess. You don't know if she lives or dies. It's probably implied that she did. But that's how it ends. And that just ends on such a dire and really scary note. Like, that's horrifying that like it just ends without you realizing what even happens. The thing I love about this movie, talking too fast, the thing I love about this movie is that this works incredibly well on the fact that you don't get any idea of who the killer is at all. It's literally just this crazy guy that's been giving them phone calls, goes up into their attic, kills a lot of them, keeps them up in the attic, and that's all you get. You don't get anything about who he is, what his name is, what he even looks like. You see minor instances of the killer, like whenever Barb is about to be killed, when the killer's like this, and like you just see its eye in the shadows, or whenever after Jess finds the bodies, you see just through the door hole, like his eye just making a really creepy look. And that's all you see of the killer. And then whenever like she runs downstairs and like you just see his arm grab her by the hair, like you don't see the killer at all. And I think that's incredibly terrifying. And the scenes of the killer alone, whenever he's up in the attic where he's just rocking the rocking chair with Claire dead, or whenever it shows like a point of view shot of like where he's just screaming, looking at all the dead bodies and upstairs and screaming and flailing and just like freaking out. That is terrifying, and that actor, whoever that was incredible. Like, that blew me away and how creepy that was. So, I love this movie based on that fact. Like, this is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. And I really don't get scared at horror much, but this is a different type of scary for me. Like, everything about this movie works incredibly well. The slow camera shots, the point of view of the killer. All these characters are interesting and have great performances, so whenever they die, you do care. And whenever they die, it's a real surprise because they do such an incredible build-up on suspense. And not showing the killer at all is really fantastic as well. Everything about this movie works perfectly. I love the original Black Christmas. So that's all I can say about this one. But I've seen this before and I hated it the first time I watched it, but I am going to rewatch the Black Christmas remake, which I think is one of the worst remakes I've ever seen, but I will watch it just to say my thoughts on it. But I hated that movie first watch, so I don't know if anything will change, but man, that movie was awful. One of the worst remakes ever. So, but let's not talk about that horrible movie. Let's finish off with saying how I love this movie. I will talk about the remake, but as of now, this is one of my favorite horror movies ever made. I love everything about it. Truly, genuinely scary. So I dug the hell out of this movie again rewatching it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for my review of the remake.